also working to bring down the cost of health care. Obamacare is a scam. Under Obamacare, trillions of dollars were given directly to health insurance companies. I want to give nothing to the insurance companies. I don't want to give all, because they're sucking our country dry with this scam by the Democrats. We want the money go directly to the people. We want you to go out and buy your own health insurance, and you'll get much better health insurance at a much lower cost. Everybody knows this is the best way to go, but the Democrats, they're bought and owned by the insurance companies. So let's see how many of them have the guts to vote for this.
That's President Trump last night in Pennsylvania calling for direct-to-consumer health care funds instead of going to the insurance companies. Republicans are rolling out their own health care plans this week, countering the Democrats' proposal, which is to extend the Obamacare subsidies for 3 more years. GOP Senators Mike Crapo and Bill Cassidy's bill would allow the existing subsidies to expire and be replaced with a new 2-year program where the federal government would directly pay into health savings accounts paired with certain Obamacare plans. Joining me now is Florida Senator Ashley Moody. Senator, good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. And you're going to be voting on this tomorrow, on these dueling plans. What are you expecting from the vote? And they're right now expected to both fail. Your thoughts?
Yeah, well, look, I hope the American people are watching what's happening. I've been here 10 months, Maria, and the incompetence on the Democratic side in terms of putting forth proposals that would actually fix problems is eye-popping. And so I just have to commend my colleagues. There were many ideas put forth, and real problems require real work. And that is why we have been having these ongoing discussions for this month. So while the Democrats shut down the government, saying they wanted to fix health care, we were rolling up our sleeves saying, OK, how do we eliminate the billions of fraud that multiple organizations have found in these subsidies? How do we make sure that working people aren't paying for millionaires' health care? How do we bring down and make actually affordable health care for the American people? And this proposal makes sure that we're tackling fraud, that we're making sure that the structure we're presenting is not going to add more to the costs of these subsidies. And it's a temporary fix while we actually dig in and explore how we can address health care for the American people. It's the top of their mind, and the Republicans want to do the work and deliver. So you're going to see very different proposals on the Democratic side. You're going to see them come in and go, we want to take on the Coach Waltz playbook of, we know there's all kinds of fraud, but we want to keep doing the same thing and stick our head in the sand. And you're going to see the Republican plan, which is, look, we've thought a lot about this. We've put pen to paper, and this is our best scenario right now temporarily to propose a fraud-free, actually affordable health care plan. And so I think that's what you'll see on full display tomorrow.
I mean, it's confusing because you've got so many different ideas here. And I guess that's what makes what makes the result. But House moderates like Fitzpatrick from Pennsylvania is expected to release something with income caps and eliminating $0 premium packages. And then there's Senate moderates like Susan Collins from Maine, likely in step with the House bill. Leadership is probably not going to get a majority on any of this, right?
You know, I am hopeful that some Democrats come in and say, you know what? We're proposing 3 years of the same lighting taxpayer money on fire approach, giving it straight over to bad actors. In many instances, they found that people getting these enhanced subsidies didn't exist. I think the GAO did a report, and they built fake profiles, and almost 100% of the time they were accepted and paid for. I mean, the fraud in here is well documented. It is out of control. And the solution to that by the Democrats is keep doing the same thing. I mean, that is why you're seeing so much of this fraud around the country. So we've got to do something about that. And again, I want to say thank you to all of the Republicans that put forth ideas. It takes a lot to start thinking through what caused this problem, looking at the data, hearing from stakeholders, and actually proposing solutions. And that's what's been going on behind closed doors. In many instances, you're talking about it on TV and public, but there's multiply that times 100, and we're having that many conversations behind closed doors. And so I think you will see on full display what real governance looks like and doing the same old thing and taking advantage of the American people and taxpayers.
I'm sure. Right now, you know, we're just trying to understand where this stands. So you'll vote tomorrow, and you're not expecting a majority on any of this. So what? We're also talking about the NDAA. The House Rules Committee cleared the National Defense Authorization Act along party lines after hours of debate, setting up this bill for a chamber-wide vote today. What are you expecting here? Because I spoke with Texas Congressman Keith Self yesterday on this program, on Monday, rather. He's warning about the red lines in this bill. Watch this.
There's a couple of red lines in the NDAA bill. First of all, we were promised, conservatives were promised, that an anti-central bank digital currency language authored by Tom Emmer, the whip, would be in the NDAA, that it is not in there. And then there is no anti-abortion language either. So as we fund our military, there are red lines that we need to put in here in the NDAA.
If you don't pass that by the end of the year, do you jeopardize the Democrats shutting down government again at the end of this funding cycle on January 30th?
It would give them an issue. So let's get the bill fixed.
What do you think, Senator? Another shutdown in January?
We cannot let that happen. We are working full steam ahead to make sure we're delivering on these bills. I think that you're seeing a lot of people in the Senate see that draft coming out of the House that have some concerns, but this is part of the process, Maria, right? We remain committed to getting something out the door and getting something passed. I commend Leader Thune for not taking his foot off the gas and encouraging us to stay focused on these bills and making sure we don't have another shutdown. It's incredibly important to show that we're delivering for the American people and doing our jobs as Congress. That's why I'm up here in D.C., making sure I'm doing the hard work, and I'm committed to the American people to get that done.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to have, while you're there in Washington, D.C., you've got to have one eye on what just took place in Miami. Right, Senator? I want to get your thoughts on the Miami race, where you've got a Democrat win here for last night's election. Ellen Higgins, the Democrat, winning the mayoral election in Miami. Your reaction?
Yeah, keep in perspective, this is a special election in a city that's majority Democrats. But what we have to do is remind the American people of what President Trump has delivered on, right? I mean, wages are up, stocks are up. He's bringing down inflation from the disaster, the walking disaster that was Biden. We've brought down gas prices. We have to keep reminding the American people of all that we're focused on and reversing course from what Biden brought to this country and into this economy. There's a lot of work still to be done, but I can tell you this president and those of us in Congress are laser focused on this, and we're going to keep talking about that now through the November elections.
So what happened in Miami, do you think? I mean, is this just a purple region?
Yeah, it's a blue city, majority Democrats. It's a special election. Turnout is often a factor here. And so, again, I know that the Democrats are going to kind of come in and try and spin this. Remember, when I came in 18, Florida was a swing state. We worked hard to make sure we safeguarded all that Florida stood for, freedom, a thriving state, law and order, and all of that has brought record business formations, record tourism, people moving to that state. And so we're going to deliver in November in Florida. Don't let this be a distraction. But what we've got to do here in Washington is remind the American people that we are focused on affordability and the economy. And there are great numbers coming out. We need to make sure we're communicating that. Sometimes my party isn't the best of talking about what successes we've achieved and what we've done well already this year. We remain so focused on getting the next thing done, but we remember we need to tell the American people about the successes we've already had. Yeah. And I think you'll see President Trump focused on that, and those of us in the Republican Party and Congress focused on that. And I expect you'll see great wins, not only in Florida, but in the rest of the nation come November.
No, it's important to recognize what took place in Miami, because you've got an exodus out of high-tax states into places like Miami and elsewhere in Florida. So I wanted to point that out. But real quick on your bill, the two New Jersey brothers are under arrest on charges related to terrorist threats after allegedly saying online that they would kill DHS Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin and calling for people to shoot ICE on site. DHS says there's been an 8,000% increase in death threats against immigration and customs enforcement personnel, Senator. You introduced the HALO Act to protect federal officers from threats, harassment, and violence. What can you tell us about it?
Yeah, this is just common sense, and at this point in time, absolutely necessary. In addition to the 8,000% increase in death threats to these federal officers, you're also seeing over 1,000% increase in actual assaults. And I can tell you, as the wife of a law enforcement officer, when you are engaging in an official act, especially when you're dealing with a detention or an apprehension of a dangerous individual, the last thing you need are agitators up in your face getting into that situation. It is incredibly, incredibly dangerous. So this would create a halo when officers are doing their jobs. If you ask someone to step back 20 away, they have to stay back 25 feet so you can execute your duties. To deny the safety of those officers, those that stand up and put their lives on the line every single day for us, that safety is just not only insane, but it totally, totally undermines the rule of law here in our nation.
All right, we will leave it there. We're watching your work, Senator. Great to talk with you this morning. Thank you. Ashley Moody this morning. I will